This is Critical Nonsense, our high-lowbrow show about culture, science, and tech. This week, Joey asks me about watching short-form videos.
Woo!
Pink Pony Club. This is what a Joey sounds like. And this is what an executive producer and rodeo clown Jess Vander sounds like.
Hi, this is Jess.
If you were at a rodeo, would you be a rodeo clown? What would your rodeo role be?
Can you describe in greater detail what that entails?
A rodeo clown dresses up like a clown but distracts the bulls once someone falls off so that the bull goes after them instead of the fallen cowboy, cowgirl, cowperson.
Okay.
I'm certainly no rodeo expert. This would, in fact, be my first rodeo.
Oh, I see. You have before called me a rodeo queen, and I wondered if there's any relation between the queens and the clowns of the rodeo. But it sounds like different
clowns
roles.
are a real role. The queen is a honorarium.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah. Jess.
Yeah.
Do you partake in short form video content?
Sure do.
What's your vice of choice?
Probably Instagram.
You're on Reels? Reelin'?
Oh no.
Stories?
Sometimes. It's like, in my mind, I convince myself that it's better than TikTok, but it isn't, because it's just like TikTok's leftovers, so it's way worse.
You're getting the worst of TikTok.
Yeah, secondhand TikTok.
I mean, I think, broadly speaking, I feel like there is a general sentiment that short form video, like people are like, yeah, it's not great for me. I'm going on a hiatus, or I'm taking a break, or I don't know. Is there a dry January equivalent to short form video? Maybe there should be. But I saw a study recently. It was in a psychological bulletin from the American Psychological Association. The title of the paper is called Feeds, Feelings, and Focus, a systematic review and meta-analysis examining the cognitive and mental health correlates of short-form video use. Primary author being Lan Nguyen. From... I never know. I don't know the right way to say it, and I always get scared.
Just like
win, yeah.
Win, like win, or win.
Yeah,
really
it's
fast.
win, but with the N sound at the front. But yeah. But the study was a meta-analysis of 71 other studies around short form video. And the long story short is that it bad. Like, so it sort of just unequivocally seems bad, but like, the more short form video both teens and adults in this meta-analysis consume, the more they struggled with things like attention, self-control, stress, and anxiety. They go on to say there are certain cognitive factors that are not covered in this study that would require additional analysis, which is sort of the intent of a meta-analysis, to sort of open up what areas have been covered broadly within explorations in a certain subject area and sort of open up new questions. But things like sort of reasoning and cognitive function as a impact from these things is not covered. But, attention, self-control, or like inhibitory control, as it talks about in the paper, as well as an increase, like reduction in attention, reduction in self-control, increase in stress, increase in anxiety, feel bad.
Checks out.
But it also seems like short form video in its sort of broad pervasiveness is, and the authors talk about this, is like pervading new areas. It's entering into education, it's entering into trainings, it's entering into advertisement and so many other places. And so my question for you is, if we both seemingly have the intuitive sense that it's bad and the, now 71 studies all pointing and a meta-analysis pointing to it's bad, why do we keep using short form video?
Because of the dazzle.
It's the sizzle.
The dazzling, sizzling, sparkling. Or it's none of those things, and so then that's fine because you didn't sink anything into it.
Yeah. Pizzazz. Yeah, I mean, like, there are obvious answers, I suppose, right? Like, when we're talking about social platforms, right? It's addicting, or the friction has been completely removed from these processes where you can just be like in a dopamine pipe where the new one just keeps feeding in and onto the next. And so, like, I get that component of it, but even what we were just talking about, like, is there an equivalent of like dry January on short form video? Like, I feel like both among my friends, right, which is sort of obviously in certain age cohort and whatever, like, a lot of them have eliminated some, not all, eliminated some of these platforms from their phones and stuff like that, because they feel like it's just, they broadly have a sense of like, what am I getting from this experience? I don't feel better after I use it, or I'm reflexively going to it. But I hear that from people. The good thing about having a company like ours is we have people across different age cohorts and demographics and all of those things. And I kind of hear the same, even from people who are like, I love TikTok, and I feel like it's consuming my life and it's making me dumber. Like, I've heard people in our company say that. And so I'm sort of like, what do you do then? Like, if you both feel it and now the data is pointing to it being bad, like, where do you go from here?
Right. I mean, it's related to a conversation we had like ages ago about dopamine culture. There was that study from Princeton that was done in like the early 2000s that was titled "Brain Battles Itself Over Short-Term Rewards and Long-Term Goals." Like, we've had that feeling for ages, and maybe increased evidence is supporting what we already suspected, which was, yep, it's not good. But I think, yeah, the question of like, well, what are some things you could do? You could like try to trick yourself. You could just like trick yourself into some other thing. You can do like the sort of the cold turkey or the absence thing, like the equivalent of a dry January for devices and things, which I think I wouldn't be surprised if people already are doing something like that. But I don't know, as with any dieting culture, like, haven't we found out that it tends to not work so hot? Like, at least in the long run, like a thing that you do temporarily, have we seen any evidence that actually does anything
Yeah.
at the end of things?
Well, I mean, the question is like, which things do you do temporarily? It's like, I was reading a paper recently about the poverty line. It was like an exploration about the poverty line, and I'll see if I can find the specific author. A friend sent it to me, but one of the things that was used as sort of like a data point within it was, when the poverty line was created originally, like the expectations and costs surrounding people were dramatically lower. Like, the poverty line was basically like 3x grocery costs per month, when groceries at that time were about like 1/3 of your like families' total expenditures. And so like today that's not the case, but they were using an example of like you ran your life from like a landline at your home. The like modern cost equivalent from when it was created is like $5. It was $5 then, it was like $58 now. Like a smartphone costs, like $200 a month, and it's a mandatory aspect increasingly of like functioning in society, like getting an appointment at a doctor's office, or like paying for something, or receiving communication, whatever it might be. It's sort of like required. And so in this instance, like the question isn't whether like you're eliminating your phone, even if there are other things on your phone that aren't right. You can change behaviors, remove colors, things like that. But this is specifically like, do you eliminate social media? But I think it brings up like a similar question of like, if everyone is participating in these short form video platforms, like does that, to what degree might that do harm from like a social cohesion perspective of like you have like no point of reference to conversations in like different communities, like a work group or something like that, and people are talking about a thing and it's like feels like Greek or whatever. And that part I don't know. Like obviously there are people we all know who like don't engage in social media, and they seem fine. They probably seem healthier, but like, can everyone do that thing? Like, I don't know.
Right, without some greater cost, or is there just like too much inertia? Yeah, I was looking up, if you look up like intentional digital friction, the first thing popped up, designingfriction.com, which I have not vetted, but it is a kind of interesting sort of thesis on all of this. And its suggestions are like, what if we just like design more frictions into our experiences to disincentivize some of the behaviors that we've gotten comfortable with, like make things more uncomfortable, create more time delays, which is funny because traveling for the last few weeks in India where the internet was, for me, really spotty in places with my limited plan. And I did use my phone less. Like my screen time went way down because I was like, ugh, this is terrible. I'm like waiting so long. Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And so I just like put my phone down. It was amazing. And it was very highly effective. Engaging the body, the idea that like all you do is like swipe a screen with like just the tip of your finger is like the easiest thing ever. Like what if you had to like use your whole physical self, or like
Yeah, there are like things similar, like where people are dealing with wanting to reduce their phone use, where they basically dock it at home. So like plug it in somewhere as a way of like tethering it, and then if you want to use your phone, you have to go to that place, and you make it like not a really easy place to be necessarily.
right.
And so that becomes like not an insurmountable friction, but removes the ability to just like mindlessly fall back into it.
Right. Like every chronic snoozer knows you should put your phone across the room so that when your alarm goes off, you have to get up to go turn it off.
Yeah, every chronic snoozer knows that.
Every chronic snoozer
they
knows
know
all too well.
it, but do they do it?
Do they do
Yeah.
it? Relatedly, do you know about the Bad UX World Cup?
No, I'm not aware of that.
The Bad UX World Cup, I believe each year sets out a challenge, and the goal is like create an actually functional digital insert thing here. This year, 2025 was build a date picker, but just make it like the worst UX you can think of, and it needs to like actually work. And the winning one, the winning one, was called the Perfect Date Picker. And it was basically Tinder for selecting a date. So it was like, you're looking for your date? Great. let's look at days. Is this your day? Swipe right if it's the right one, and swipe left if not. And you're like swiping and going through because like, yes, technically you can find a date this way, but and when it gets to year, it's crazy. Because you're like, wait, all years ever.
Yeah.
It also did like future years in addition to past years, and it was so hilariously bad.
I mean, I did a talk last year around like discomfort diet, and one of the things we talked about was like the frictionless UX movement and how that movement, which obviously was like well intentioned of making people's lives easier and more convenient and whatever, began in an era where all of these different aspects of our technological life hadn't yet existed. But by reducing friction, you're reducing choice, and like sometimes doing hard things is good for you. Like sometimes, increasing friction before you make a purchase, for example, like gives you a few moments to be like, do I need that? Or like increasing friction before selecting a date or whatever it is, like can be valuable as like a moment of pause, or
right.
to make sure someone selected the right fields before they, even in not preventing someone from making a purchase, but making sure they like selected the right color or size or put in the right address or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right. I guess maybe the issue is more not that it's like people intellectually can't get around the idea of like, that probably would be good for me. It's just that the reward isn't as obvious. Like, I believe the last time we talked about this, when we talked about dopamine culture, we talked about type 2 fun, that feeling of like, it's hard while I'm doing it, but I reap the reward in perpetuity afterwards, where I just think about like, wow, that was so great. And that mindset is itself the reward.
Yeah.
And I guess the question here is like, does one does one attribute the benefits of I put my phone down and I ended up doing this other thing instead to the friction? To the fact that, I actually opted into this other harder thing that was more rewarding and more satisfying. It's maybe just it's hard to associate the two or think like, and that's because I opted out of this other easier and worse for me thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think even like, right, even like flow state as an example requires a certain amount of challenge and is like a desirable mental state because we like how it feels. Like you have like time dilation and things like that like emerge where you like lose sense of time and self and all of these things when you're immersed in a activity that has like the right amount of challenge and engagement and all of those things. But obviously, like when we're talking about like passive entertainment, you don't necessarily want that. But what long form does in the case of even a half-hour TV show or watching a movie or something, like you're still getting passive entertainment, but it allows for immersion and focus where your brain can be sort of oriented towards a singular thing, allows your mind to meander and consider different aspects of like, do I agree? Is this person the villain? Is that person the villain? What would I do in that situation? Right? Like creates a focus. But what the sort of short form video loop does is like tends to cue primal things, right? Like why is that person making like that, whatever that like face that people make on YouTube things now. I think it has a name like soy face or something like that, where it's like slightly open mouth and like shocked eyes and like things like that, where it's like as humans we're just cued to be like, why is that person making that face? And then but like every video has that face now because it plays well.
Apparently that name comes from a pretty weird place. It comes from like a weird association with soy, as though that is like a more effeminate and unmasculine food choice for men. Whoa, didn't know that. That's
Oh,
weird.
like soy
I've never
boy,
heard.
like that type of thing.
That's
Got it.
apparently where it
Yeah.
came from, which
I think I
had.
read there's like a few names for it, but I read an article that was sort of like exploring why this is like this face is exploding. And I think the primary name that they had called it was soy face, but there were like other names in it. But it probably makes sense it might be being called soy face as a pejorative in some, weird corner of the internet. But like those things are cueing on like a primal thing of like quick facial recognition. But then if you're like within 60 seconds, you're jumping into a new video, you're never like, why is this person talking about this thing? How would I feel about that? You're like immediately thrown somewhere else. And so like the attention thing like makes a lot of sense. There's not even like room to meander.
What about making room to meander though?
If
Come
we
on.
just farting
Come on,
around,
guys.
getting an envelope. Who was that? Who was that? Vonnegut? Yeah, talking about why he likes going out to do errands.
That sounds nice. Relatedly, floating. You ever heard of floating? Done floating? I floated this week.
Like a sensory deprivation type of floating?
Yeah. You go and you just like, Alex Contel, sound engineer and chief floating captain, apparently also supports this message. It's where you just like float in an insanely Epsom salt saline bath solution in the dark, where you're just in there and it's just you and your thoughts for way too long. And I know like some people just find it sleepy.
Yeah, I would just fall asleep.
But I also think it's just, but like that could also work for people. And it's like, also, what about just being there alone with your thoughts? That could be
napping
good.
in water sounds dangerous.
It's shallow, and you're also floating.
Yeah.
It's like, so just don't flip over.
I mean, I guess
Hopefully wake yourself up.
I guess as like we get to a wrap up corner, I think it is, we're in one of those situations again where like so many of our current conditions are sort of oriented around like forcing action back to the individual because of our inability to regulate things effectively and our potentially even disinterest in regulating things, period. But it does feel like that's sort of like where we're getting. But the data seems pretty unequivocal. Like if you're feeling stressed or anxious, you probably shouldn't be like if you take nothing else from that study of like almost 100,000 people, 71 studies across like broad universities, whatever, is like if you're feeling stressed or anxious, don't go on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube Shorts.
Which, and maybe now is like a weird time to bring this up, but like, which also maybe aligns too with the way, at least at a time, smoking became less prevalent, which was otherwise like a really hard thing to quit, even in the face of information that was like, this is bad for you. But then it became uncool to smoke when before it was cool, and who knows where things stand now because everyone's smoking again. But for at least an extended period of time, the idea that it's like, oh no, like, do you not, your body's a temple, like what are you doing with yourself? Meanwhile now, like the idea of like, oh, what were you spending your time doing? You were scrolling? That's embarrassing. You weren't like bettering yourself and like taking art classes and going out and like hiking. Like that's so sad. What were you doing with your time? And so if anything, maybe the social cultural pressure of
we're just returning to shame. It all comes back to shame.
Joey's like, I think Jess has a different strategy in life of like, let's just prey on these like negative emotional triggers and get people off their phones and outside.
The best way to get rid of one negative emotion is to introduce another
one.
Yeah. Well, Jess, is that your wrap-up corner?
I don't know if I was giving any good advice. What do I know? All I know is I'm out here scrolling, looking at short form videos, knowing I shouldn't, feeling guilty that I should be spending my time floating or drawing or something. Maybe all we need to do is in like one of those instances, follow in the footsteps of a friend of ours who at their dining table, they had this sheet and it had a list. It was titled Things You Could Do Instead of Being on Your Phone. And it was just a list of all kinds of like tiny to-dos and fun things or whatever. And it was just a list of them. And it was sort of like a bucket list that they could check things off of. And I just found that really inspiring because maybe there's a plenty of things that you mean to do and you look over at your list and you're like, you know what? I should go do that. That's a great idea. Thanks, me. For looking out for me.
Well, we did it.
You did it.
Critical Nonsense is a Sylvain production.
Brought to you by, whoa, what was that? It's a short form video.
As always, we'd like to thank our executive producer and shock face, Jess Vander.
Okay. We'd also like to thank sound engineer and floating through space and time, Alex Contal.
We'd like to thank our programming coordinator and the influencer of my life, Les Jacobs.
Thanks to the production crew and drivers of our feeds, Feelings and Focus, Sari Gilbert, Nora Mestrich, Christy Jensen, Amanda Medina, and Amy Waters.
And as always, thanks, Len.
Thanks.
Special thanks
To like good green juice.
Oh, good green juice.
You know what's bad green juice?
I basically can't have green juice anyways. So.
You're allergic to like apple and all the
carrot, like
carrot.
Apple, carrot, like pear feels like those are things that are in green juice.
Those are things that are in green juices. Yeah, you could have a bad green juice, which is basically just like straight spinach and celery. You could have that.
Spinach, celery, and spirulina. No sugar green juice. No thank you to that.
No thank you.
No thanks, bad green juice.
Special thanks to not that.
Yeah. Special thanks to cannolis. Cannolis? Cannolis? What a
Yeah.
How do you pronounce that?
Not cannoli. No.
Like
cannoli. Like the it's like a little tall crown, a tiny little
It's like a baked flan kind of. I said flan, not even flan. I sound like my mom.
They're a Bordeaux pastry and it's meant to evoke
it's like a baked egg custard maybe?
No, yeah, well apparently it was historically made using leftover egg whites from winemaking in, of course, the wine region. So I'm trying to remind myself what is it meant to evoke? I'm looking.
Is it meant to evoke a bunt? A papal hat?
But it does have that very unique egg dessert type texture.
Why are cannolis shaped that way? Fluting or corrugation.
Yeah, but that is just what it is.
That's why it's named that way.
Right. It doesn't seem... Yeah. Oh, and it was traditionally baked in a mold brushed with beeswax. You know that? Yeah. Good pairing with wine, I guess. Well, there you have it, folks.
Well,
another reason that vanilla is the most delicious thing out there. Another great way to consume vanilla. Thanks.
Thanks, pastries. All right. Love you. Mean it. Bye.
Okay, see